Imagine waking up beneath a sky that is not blue, but soft pink. Not the pink of fantasy, the pink of dust, clouds, and a thicker sky filtering a weaker sun. You open your eyes. Cold air presses against your skin, not deadly, not yet. Outside your shelter, water moves, not frozen, not imagined, it flows. A narrow river cuts through red stone, reflecting a pale sunrise. You are not on Earth. You are standing on Mars, 1 billion years ago, when this world was not yet the silent desert we know today. This is the moment where everything changes. Because for a brief window in cosmic time, Mars may have been a world where you could have lived. To understand how that is possible, we have to erase the Mars we think we know, the dry planet of dust storms and lifeless plains, the frozen globe with air too thin to breathe, that Mars exists today. But 1 billion years ago, Mars was different. The planet was still warm enough to hold liquid water on its surface. Its core had not fully died. Its atmosphere had not yet been stripped away by the solar wind from the sun. Gravity, weaker than Earth's, was still just strong enough to hold on to a thicker blanket of gas. Carbon dioxide filled the sky. Nitrogen lingered. Traces of water vapor moved through clouds. The air was not breathable by modern human standards, but it was far denser than today's Martian vacuum. Under that sky, rivers carved valleys that we can still see today. Lakes pooled inside massive craters. Rain may have fallen briefly, softly, before freezing again at night. This was not paradise, but it was not death either. If you lived here, survival would depend on adaptation. The days would be colder than anything experienced on modern Earth. The sunlight weaker, filtered through dust and cloud. Seasons longer, storms slower but vast. You would wake each day knowing that warmth was precious. Fire would be life. Shelter would be everything. And water would define your existence. The rivers outside your cave would not roar like Earth's. They would move slowly, cautiously, as if unsure whether they were allowed to exist. Ice would line their edges. Some days they would vanish beneath thin sheets of frost, only to reappear when sunlight returned. You would learn the rhythm of Mars, when to move, when to hide, when to gather. Mars would not forgive mistakes. Volcanoes still shaped the planet at this time. Massive structures like Olympus Mons were active or recently active, releasing gases into the atmosphere, gases that help keep the planet warm. Every eruption thickened the sky just enough to delay the planet's slow death. But those same forces were unstable. Mars had already lost its global magnetic field. Without it, charged particles from the sun slammed directly into the atmosphere, stripping it away molecule by molecule. You would not notice this day to day, but the planet was bleeding, slowly, relentlessly. Compared to Earth, our home planet, protected by its magnetic shield and dense atmosphere, Mars was always living on borrowed time. On Earth, water cycles endlessly. Oceans regulate climate. Life reshapes the planet itself. On Mars, everything was fragile. If microbial life existed, and evidence suggests it may have, then it lived underground, or in water, or in brief seasonal blooms. Simple, resilient, silent. You, as a human, would be an intruder in this system. Breathing would be difficult. You would need primitive assistance, some form of oxygen generation, perhaps derived from splitting water or harvesting oxygen from the atmosphere. Without it, you would survive minutes, not hours. Radiation would be another constant threat. With no strong magnetic field, cosmic rays would rain down on the surface. Caves would be your sanctuary. Rock would be your shield. That cave you wake up in would not be chosen for comfort. It would be chosen for survival. Day by day, Mars would test you. Temperatures would swing violently, warm enough at midday to melt ice, lethally cold at night. Food would be scarce. You would depend on stored supplies or whatever primitive ecosystem could be sustained indoors. And yet, despite all of this, you could live for a while. But Mars was changing faster than any civilization could adapt. As the core cooled further, volcanic activity slowed. The atmosphere thinned, rivers dried, lakes vanished, ice retreated underground, locking itself away from the surface. The pink sky began to fade. Storms grew harsher but brought no rain. Dust choked the air, reflecting sunlight back into space, cooling the planet even more. The surface hardened. Life retreated or died. If you were still there, you would feel it. The water outside your cave would disappear first, then the clouds, then the warmth. Mars would not explode. It would not collapse. It would simply fade. A world slowly forgetting how to be alive. This is the greatest difference between Mars and Earth. Earth fights for life. Mars surrendered. And yet, the evidence of that ancient world still remains. Carved valleys, mineral deposits formed only in water, ancient shorelines frozen in time. They whisper the same message. Mars was once a place of possibility, which leads us to a final question. If Mars could once support rivers, skies, and perhaps life, if a planet can change this completely, what does that say about Earth's future? And what other worlds, silent, distant, and waiting, might be closer to life than we ever imagined? That is a story for the next What If.